where we are going to start class 9 syllabus, and today we are going to do chapter number 2 from biology, that is cell, the unit of life. If you have not subscribed the channel, do subscribe the channel for the upcoming videos, because in this channel I'm going to upload all the chapters from biology and chemistry for class 9th ICSE board students. Okay, so without any further delay, let's start with the chapter cell. Before starting the chapter, first of all, we should understand that what is cell. We should know the concept of cell. So for that, I will give you an example. For example, for suppose you need to make a building. Suppose one of the house. Suppose you somewhere some workers are constructing any house or any building is made. So for making that building or house, they will use the bricks, because without bricks it's not possible to make any building or a house, right? In the same way, for building the body of any organism, whether it is plant or animal, cell is needed. Cell is the basic unit of life. Without cell, an organism cannot exist. So if we talk about the definition of cell, what is cell? Cell is a building block of a living organism. Like bricks are the building block for any house or any building, in the same way cell is the building block of any living organism. So let's understand the definition of cell. So what is cell? Cell is the fundamental, structural and functional unit of all living beings. What is cell? Two words you have to remember in the definition. Structural means cell is will give the structure to a living organism. Functional means it will perform the function in a living organism. So basically, cell is a structural and functional unit of all living beings. It will give structure also, and it will it will perform all the function also in a living organism, whether it is a plant or an animal. Second point, it is the smallest part of the body of an organism which is capable of independent existence and of performing the essential function of life. Okay, if we talk about in our body, we have a lot of organ system, but cell is the smallest part of the body which can exist independently, and it can perform all the basic essential function of our life, like respiration. It helps with respiration, digestion, movement, etc. Next, every cell has its own life. If you remember, if in your junior class you have read about RBCs, red blood cell. What is the lifespan of RBC cell? The lifespan of RBC cells are 120 days. They can only exist for 120 days. After that, they will die and new cells will again grow in their place. So, whenever any cell will get damaged, or they will become old, or they will die, the new cells will replace them. The old cells will die and the new cells will take their place. So, cells exist from the pre-existing cells. Next point. Cells are so small that they cannot be seen with the naked eye. Yes, the cells are very small, very tiny. We cannot see with our eyes. We need what we need? We need a microscope. Without microscope, we cannot see the cells. Next, most organisms, including ourselves, start life as a single cell called the zygote. If you have read the reproduction chapter, over there if you have learned that when fertilization takes place, means fusion of male and the female gamete, that is sperm and the egg. What is formed? When sperm and eggs will fuse together, zygote is formed. After that, the zygote will develop into embryo. Embryo will develop into a baby. So we all start our life from a single celled organism called zygote. Now let's move to the next slide. Okay, in the next slide, we will talk about the invention of the microscope and the discovery of the cell. So, in your book, according to your syllabus, you have to read about the three types of microscope. The first microscope is the simple microscope, the second one is compound microscope, and the third is electron microscope. The first microscope, that is a simple microscope, it was constructed by a Dutch scientist known as Antony van Leeuwenhoek in the year 1632 to 1723. Simple microscope, when he constructed that simple microscope, he used single biconvex lens. And what is the magnifying power of simple microscope? It is only up to 200 times, not more than that. So this was the first microscope which was invented by the scientist Antony van Leeuwenhoek. You have to remember the name of the scientist who discovered simple microscope. Now let's talk about the second microscope, that is the compound microscope. Compound microscope was discovered by the scientist called Robert Hooke. And Robert Hooke was the same scientist who has discovered cell, and he coined the name cell also. So Hooke in the year 1635 to 1703, an English scientist, he developed a microscope by using two lenses by achieving greater magnification. Yes, the magnification of compound microscope is more than that of the simple microscope, and it's 2000 times. In these types of microscope, concave mirror was used to focus the beam of light towards it. And the third type of microscope is the electron microscope, whose magnification power is quite high. That is, its magnification power is up to 2000 times. Electron, and what is the difference between compound microscope and electron microscope? In electron microscope, beams of electrons are used which are bent by the magnets. But in compound microscope, no beams of electrons were used. So you have to just remember that there are three types of microscope. Simple microscope, compound microscope, and the electron microscope. The magnification power of electron microscope was quite high. Next we have cell theory, and this is the most important part of the chapter, cell theory. So cell theory was given by Sheldon and Swan, and later on some addition was made by Rudolf Virchow. So cell theory was given in the year 1839 by Sheldon and Swan, and in 1858 Rudolf Virchow made an addition to the cell theory. So what are the most important points of cell theory? There are three important points of cell theory. If in your exam it will be asked write cell theory or write the statement of cell theory. First line you have to add that cell theory was given by Sheldon and Swan in the year 1839, and later on some additions are made by Rudolf Virchow in 1858. The three important points of cell theory are: the first one, the cell is the smallest unit of structure of all living things. Yes, it is the smallest part of all living things or all living beings, right? Second point, the cell is the unit of function of all living structure. Yes, it performs all the important function of all living things. And the third one is that all cells arise from the pre-existing cells. Means when the cell will become dead and old, then the new cells will take their place. So the new cells will arise from the existing cells. So this was cell theory. You have to just remember that cell as the smallest unit of any structure of living organism. It is the unit of function of all living organism, and all cells arise from the pre-existing cell. Next is, what does the cell theory mean? Yes, we have to understand the four important concepts of cell theory. So for understanding those things, let's take the example of a frog and a mango. Structural unit. What is the meaning of structural unit over here? If we talk about structural unit, we should know that structural means cell is giving the structure to a living organism, whether it is a frog or a mango. So mango tree will also get the structure because of the cell, and frog will also get a structure because of the cell. If we will examine the structure of a frog and a mango under a microscope, we can see the cellular structure. Right? Now let's move to the functional unit. By functional unit, we can understand that cell performs all the basic function in our body. If we talk about frog and mango, then you have seen the movement in frog. How do they move? They move by the contraction of the muscle cells. Even the food is digested in the frog's body by the enzymes which the cells secrete, and the food is digested and absorbed. All that is all because of the cell. Even in the mango tree, the photosynthesis process which occur by which the plant make its food, that is done by the cells, because cells will absorb the water from the soil, right? Next, cells die and are replaced. So whenever in the mango tree or in the frog, millions and millions of cells are there. So when any of the cells will die or become old, the new cells will take their place, and the new cells will arise from the pre-existing cells. Next, most life starts as a single cell. Just now in the beginning of the chapter, we have discussed that we all start our life from the single cell called zygote. So whenever fertilization will take place, a cell will develop, a single cell, and from that cell only every living organism will grow, whether it is frog or a mango. Now let's move to the next slide. Cells, how many? Means in different type of organism, different number of cells are there. Okay, so if the organism is a small one, like a small ant or a small rat, In their body, obviously, the numbers of cells will be less. Like for example, amoeba. Amoeba is a unicellular organism which is made up of single cell. But if we look at a bigger organism like whale or elephant, then a large number of cells will be there. So it depends on the size of the organism. If the organism is smaller, then small number of cells will be there. If the organism bigger, then greater number of cells will be there. So let's talk about the single cell organism. If we talk about single cell organism, the first thing which will come in our mind is amoeba, right? So many plants and animals are made up of only one cell. Example, bacteria, yeast, amoeba. So just learn the example of bacteria, yeast and amoeba as single cell organism. Few celled. In many of the organism, few number of cells are present, very less cells like 100 or 1000. Examples, Pyrogyra, Volvox. Next, we have multicellular organism. So there are many plants and animals in which millions or billions of cells are there. For example, we, human beings, mango tree, in which millions and billions of cells are there, right? Okay, if we talk about an average adult human being, then 37.2 trillion cells are present in the whole body. 100 billion nerve cells in the human brain only, and 4 to 6 million red blood cells and 7,000 white blood cells per cubic millimeter of the blood. So if you look at these data, it is the data of a normal averaged adult human, in which 32.7 trillion cells are there in his complete body. 100 billion nerve cells are there in the human brain, and how many RBCs are there? 4 to 6 million RBCs, and WBCs 7,000 in per cubic millimeter of blood. Now let's talk about the next slide. Okay, so cells, how many? The next topic is cells, how many? So if we look at, we know that cells are very small. We cannot see with them with our naked eye. What we need a microscope, right? So if we look at the bacteria cell, then the size of the bacteria cell will range from 0.3 to 0.5 micrometer. If we look at the size of the RBC, it's 7 micrometers in the human body. Now, if we talk about the longest cell in our body, then the nerve cell is the longest cell. Imagine it starts from your fingertip and it will reach to the brain. So how long it is? Next, the largest cell. Till now, the largest cell is the ostrich egg. Ostrich egg is the largest cell. Next, we have smallness of a cell, greater efficiency. If the cell is smaller, it will work more efficiently. Okay, cells generally remain small in size, and this is because of two main reasons. Cell is very small in size, but then also it performs many important functions. Why they are small in size? The first thing, different regions of a cell can communicate with each other rapidly for the cell to function effectively. If the cells are small in size, what will happen? They can just connect with each other. If suppose this is one of the cell and this is one of the cell, they can communicate each other. They can exchange their materials. They can exchange the information, and they can work properly if their size is small. Next, cells have a large surface area by volume ratio for greater diffusion of substances in and out of the cell. Yes, the ratio, if you look at this ratio, larger surface area by volume ratio, in cells generally this ratio is quite good, quite greater. Why? So that the substances can go inside the cell and come out of the cell. The diffusion process will be very good if the cells have large surface area by volume ratio. Now, the larger surface area relative to the volume of the cell ensures greater diffusion of. This is one of the questions which is asked in the exercise also. Why? What are the benefits of larger surface area by volume ratio in the cell? The first thing, nutrients into the cell. The nutrients can easily penetrate and easily go into the cell. Metabolic waste can come out from the cell. Respiratory gases like oxygen will go inside and carbon dioxide will come out from the cell. Any damage of the cell can be easily repaired. If in the cells any damages or if any injuries are there, then they can easily be repaired by that process. So that's why the cells are small in size. So with this is the first part of the chapter, cell. In the next slides, in the next parts, the next part will come soon. So in the next part, we will be discussing the next topic, that is shapes of the cell. So keep watching the video, and if you have not subscribed the channel, subscribe the channel for the upcoming videos. And if you have any doubt, any questions in your mind, you can just put your question in the comment box. I will happy to answer your question. Thank you for watching, and share this video with your friends, and if you have liked the video, then please click on the like button. Thank you.